Good morning. I'd like to call the Kankakee County Board meeting to order for October 12th, 2021. Today's invocation is from Sam Payton.
Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support. As we begin this meeting today, help us engage in a meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group. Be with us in our deliberation and help us to be wise in the decision we make for Kankakee County. Finally, dear Lord, grant us the wisdom to seek it in your most blessed name. Amen.
Amen.
And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States.
To the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, we can get a roll call, please.
Mr. Hess. Present. Mr. Tholen. Mrs. Polk.
Present.
Mr. Snipes. Present. Mr. Seroy. Present. Mr. Lear. Present. Mrs. Weber. Present. Mrs. Peters. Mr. Payton.
Present.
Mrs. Parker. Present. Mr. Fairfield. Present. Mr. Carrico.
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Present.
Mr. Swanson.
Present.
Mr. Featherling.
Present.
Mr. Donnell. Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Long.
Present.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Present.
Mr. Hunter. Ms. Bryan.
Present.
Mr. Collins. Ms. Hudson.
Present.
Mr. Smith.
Present.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand.
Present.
Mr. Gowler. Mr. Wheeler.
Present, sorry. Okay, all right. Mr. Carrico, did you want to request? Do you have a request?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Yeah, I was advised by my physician to still not attend meeting in person at this moment. Okay. Because I'm still on the recovery phase.
Thank you. Is there a motion, Mr. Seroy?
I'll make a motion to allow Mr. Carrico in as a Zoom participant.
Second, Mr. Hunter. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, welcome officially. Under public commentary, I have Kathy Vanderdyes. Was that correct? Did I do okay? All right, he did okay.
You'll get my bill later.
From Pembroke Township. Micro over there.
Hi. Thank you again for allowing us to speak. Just a couple of things I want to speak on. In regards to the last meeting, our word was at about our lift stations. You guys requested some bids. We have been speaking with people about bids, but unfortunately they told me they could not get them to me, I'm sorry, until this evening. So if I could have time to submit those bids to you by the end of the week for our lift station situation in our community, where you said you guys would help us pay for that. This bid will include the draining of the lift station so that they can get down and see what exactly needs to be repaired. So they're working on getting that to me by this evening. They said they would have it for me. As well as I had spoken with, I called in and spoke with Mr. Gilbert about the pre-annexing situation. And I do understand that the pre-annexing is an agreement between our residents and the community. I'm not opposed to pre-annexing. I'm opposed to it when a commercial developer is using it to circumvent the system. And if there's any way that we can amend the pre-annexation agreements to be a little more stringent when it comes to a commercial developer trying to pre-annex to circumvent, as well as our policing situation. I'm sure many of you have heard the recent incidents in our community and the fact that we do not have policing. We're trying to get policing, but we're asking for help in any way possible with county, however they can help our community. And getting that policing, which also falls on, I'm sure you guys heard of the development. We have not been given a feasibility report that anything has been done, a study on what this development's impact will be on our community. And I'm requesting that so that the county know that it's being requested. And I just also lastly want to state that we had a meeting which was a little disheartening. It was a village meeting where some of the board members came out to chastise us for standing up for ourselves here. And I just want to put it out there. What if someone came to your community meeting, Bourbonnais, Briarcliff, any one of your meetings, and tried to chastise you and tell you how to run your community? I think that was unfair to us and that it should not have been done. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Don't have anything under, I don't have anything under announcements. Under vacancy appointments, if we could get the title of the resolution read in the record, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, approving the appointment of Eric Raymond to the Kankakee County Board to fill the unexpired term in District 20.
To start off with, is there a motion on this one here? Mr. Eckhoff, second. Mr. Miller, any comments? Alrighty, I guess if none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Welcome, and you'll
I thought the roll call instead of voice vote. Huh?
no, it's voice vote.
That's a confirmation of a,
Correct. We're not spending money per se.
well, you
But-
are spending.
Would you like a roll call vote?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, procedurally, yeah, if we want to do the next one, we can, but procedurally, I've never done it before. That doesn't make it correct. Would you have a comment?
If a member requests a roll call vote, you can have a roll call vote.
Right.
On just about any vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. But, yep. So this one, we had already concluded the voice vote. Catch it next time. Well, then, if we could be sworn in, Mr. Raymond?
Is this mic on?
I will be. There you go.
You could raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Eric Raymond,
Having been appointed
having been appointed
to the office of County Board Member, District 20,
to the office of County Board Member, District 20,
in the County of Kankakee,
in the County of Kankakee,
and State of Illinois,
in the State of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of County Board Member
of the office of County Board Member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Hey, Eric? Eric, it'll probably be right up here in the front. Yeah, that's the open seat. Call you Heather today. Is that okay? All right, moving on. Also have a proclamation today. I will take blame for this. I believe our wires got crossed. I thought I was communicating with the person who was going to bring him here, and that was my fault. So maybe I'll get Mr. Lamont to come back and we'll present this to him next month. But is it okay if we vote that in, because we're proclaiming this month in honor of him, if that's okay? Should we read the whole thing into the record, please? I think he deserves that.
Proclamation of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, honoring James Jim Lamont for his many years of public service to the people of Kankakee County. Whereas James Jim Lamont commenced his service to the people of Momence in Kankakee County in June of 1958 when he began his career as a firefighter. And whereas James Jim Lamont served the Momence Fire Protection District for over 50 years, including service as fire chief and president of the Board of Trustees. And whereas James Jim Lamott served the residents of Good Shepherd Manor from the date of origin, serving as volunteer, director, vice chairman, and chairman of the board of directors. And whereas James Jim Lamott contributed greatly to improving the safety of people of Kankakee through his service on the Kankakee County Emergency Telephone Board, providing leadership and direction as that board evolved into CANCOM. And whereas James Jim Lamott co-founded the Custom Farm Seed Company, a pioneering hybrid seed production firm in Momence, Illinois. And whereas James Jim Lamott served as member of the Kankakee County Board, on the board of Drug Free Incorporated, and as an officer of the Illinois Firefighter Memorial Foundation and State Firefighter Medal of Honor Committee. And whereas James Jim Lamott has made service to the people of Momence, Kankakee County, and state of Illinois his life's work. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Kankakee County Board greatly appreciate James Jim Lamott's service to his community and many contributions to the safety and welfare of the people of Kankakee County. And October 2021 is hereby proclaimed as James Jim Lamott Month for the County of Kankakee.
Is there a motion on this to start with Mr. Hess? I thought so, and Mr. Long would be a second. I can tell you that the words just really don't describe what Jim Lamott did for this community, and really the loss of him at the helm of the board of 911. It'll be a tough shoes to fill, but they'll keep on because of the legacy that he's leaving behind. He was one of the people, and Mr. Long may remember, he was one of the people that put that thing together after the Amtrak derailment. And those that were on the board back remember those folks that got together and really were connected to fire and police. And they, what we have today is a large part done to or from Jim Lamott. So I thought I would share that, and I don't know if anybody else has any comments about Jim and his role. Those that worked with him or worked as peers in the community, but we'll try to drag him back here. Mr. Hess, do you have anything embarrassing to share about Jim? Oh, that's what I was thinking. I didn't turn your mic on for that, so. No, he's a wonderful person, and his daughter was a member of our board for a while, Jackie Haas. So I'm sure she might have some fine things to say about her father. Let's see if we can get them both back here. So that being said, roll call, Mr. Hunter. I'm just kidding with you, man. I'm just kidding with you, man. Yes, Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, let me just say something. I remember back when we were talking about combined dispatch 911, and that was been some time ago when I had hair and about 150 pounds lighter. But meeting downstairs with Alderman Cunnington, and which we were appointed by, I think, Russell Johnson back in the day. But you know, he has always been a consummate professional, a doer, and I think this is fitting and proper that we honor him in this regard.
Thank you. So I'll just go on with all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we'll move forward on that, hopefully getting back here next month. No certificates this month. The minutes of the last meeting, September 1st and September 14th, 2021. Is there a motion? Mr. Swanson, Mr. Kirkstra with a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under Claims Committee reports.
Your Committee on County Claims would beg leave to report that they have examined the following claims presented and recommended payment. The clerk is hereby authorized and directed to issue orders of the several claimants payable in the amount of $6,560,835.72.
All righty. Is there a motion on that one? Pay the bills. Mr. Fairfield, a second. Mr. Lear? Okay, and that'll be a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk. Mrs. Polk.
You're on mute, Ms. Polk.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long. Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Polk, aye.
Alrighty. Motion carries. Under department reports, we'll get those read in the record, please.
County Collector's Monthly Report for August 2021. Total cash and bank and investments, $44,039,299.23. County Treasurer's Monthly Report for August 2021. Total cash and investments, $44,039,299.23. Coroner's Monthly Report for August 2021, 122 total calls, 19 coroners, 9 autopsies, 9 toxicology, 1 donation, 2 fetal, 51 hospice, 50 referral, 66 cremations, 5 x-rays, 3 outside autopsies, 8 pending. Coroner's Income Summary Report for August 2001, total of $5,072.76. Circuit Clerk Cash Book for month ending August 2021, total dispersed $250,461.92. Recorder's Monthly Report for August 2021, disbursement fees paid to the County Treasurer of $183,170.07. Animal Control Monthly Report for August 2021, total of $51,293.48 in the IPTIP Building Fund, $152,750.44, 107 total animals handled. County Clerk Monthly Report for August 2021, total of $26,795.18. Monthly Building Division Report, total permits 102, total fees $41,465. And the monthly resolution report for October 2001, total to the county of $15,493.56.
Yeah. Is there a motion to combine and approve? Mr. Eckhoff, second. Mr. Snipes. This one is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Alrighty, we're, Mr. Rogers asked me to pull 370, the very last item off the consent agenda. So he just had to pull that back. He had some work to do on that. But beyond that, is there anything that needs to be removed and considered separately? Give you a moment, there's a lot of names on there today. And a second time, is there anything that needs to be removed to consider separately? Is there a motion to combine and approve then? Mr.
Polk.
Long, Ms. Polk with a second. If we could get those read into the record, sir.
The appointment of Chad Miller to the Economic Alliance of Kankakee County, the appointment of Mike Rubel to the Kankakee River Conservancy District, the appointment of Adam Minton to the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, the reappointment of Dawn Tutt to the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, the reappointment of Bonnie J. Dvorak to the Essex Township Fire Protection District, the reappointment of Daniel Anker to the BM Lewis Drainage District, the reappointment of Larry Hammond to the Canavan Drainage District, the reappointment of Anthony Langloy to the Canavan Drainage District, the reappointment of Michael Lambert to the Exline Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Naomi Endres to the Grinnell Special Drainage District, the reappointment of Daryl Ort to the Joe Bennis Drainage District, the reappointment of Troy Kaufman to the Joe Bennis Drainage District, the reappointment of Gerald Hooksper to the Little Beaver Drainage District, the reappointment of Larry Dumontel to the Little Beaver Drainage District, the reappointment of Francis J. Smith to the Mantino Drainage District number 3, the reappointment of Larry Blanchette to the Mantino Drainage District number 6 of the towns of Mantino and Bourbonnais, the reappointment of Wayne Blanchette to the Mantino Drainage District number 6 of the towns of Mantino and Bourbonnais, the reappointment of Alan Lamore to the Mantino Drainage District number 9, the reappointment of David Schaefer to the Minnie Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Richard Hansen to the Minnie Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Dennis Johnson to the Moments and Yellowhead Drainage District number 1, the reappointment of Tom Forberger to the Moments and Yellowhead Drainage District number 1, the reappointment of Mark Chapman to the Raymond Drainage District, the reappointment of Ronald Beaver to the Rockville Drainage District number 1, the reappointment of John Keir to the Rockville Drainage District number 1, the reappointment of James Wasser to the Snake Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of David DeYoung to the Snake Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Martin Groff to the Spring Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Bruce Schaafsma to the Spring Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Neil Trudeau to the Union Drainage District number 2, the reappointment of Bruce Mathias to the Yellowhead and Washington Union Drainage District number 2, holidays to be observed by the offices of Kankakee County for calendar year 2022, declaration of computer equipment, surplus equipment for the Kankakee County Sheriff's Department, the declaration of printer as surplus equipment for the Kankakee County Clerk's Office.
So we have a motion to combine and approve. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes. Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Just sharing screen. Is that the way it was set up? Okay. All right. This is, now we're moving on to the next item, which is the adoption of the maps. I wanted first to show everybody what our map looked like after we loaded the census in. So let me zoom out just a hair. If this is on video from the redistricting committee, I hope folks had a chance to watch it. Looks like it's out about as far as it can go. I don't know what's going on here. So if you look and see what happened, sorry about this, folks. Give me just a minute here. I don't know why this is not zooming out. There we go. All right, so when we dropped in the new census, our computer system in GIS, and if Dell wants to get in the weeds, we can. Sorry, this is not working. There we go.
Andy, you had a question from Heather about if they can access this on their tablet.
No, this is in a, it's a direct link to the planning department.
Actually, they could access the video feed via YouTube on your tablet.
That's a good idea. Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. All right, so I'll move this around a little bit here. The mouse was plugged in. I just, well, not very observant. So what happened was, is we had significant change in the city of Kankakee because of the census and in the northern part of the county. So if you look in here, say District 26, where I live, that went up to being 26% over the mean, over the average. You know, the 7 went up to being over, you know, 6 there towards the top. You started to see, and then you go into Kankakee, and there was even more pronounced because of what we are, all of us are pretty sure of the undercount in Kankakee. It was just devastating to those districts. So something had to be done. It was over the really 9.5 to 10%. Really, once you get to 10% is where the legal cases come in. Jim can speak to that, but the mandate that we had is the board wanted this map, and so how do we make this balanced? So this is, if anybody's, you know, has any questions about this, but this is straight data from the census dropped right into the map we approved back in, was it the end of June, I believe? Yeah. So if there's no questions about this, I'll open up the balanced map before we go that direction. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. So then I'll open up balanced here. Sorry, I've got to close it all the way out. So what we tried to do was keep the same map, if you will, but also allow for the changes that were thrust upon us by the census. So this one is pretty much the same thing, and we had to grab little and push population from the northern part of the county down through all of the districts to get down to Kankakee. So if you look, now we're in the lower percentages of balance, if you will, which means they're really close to the mean. Once you get up into these areas, the problem you run into is once you push population from one to the other, then they're over the number. Then you have to take some of them and push them south. So if there's really no more you can push with natural trying to stay close to these township lines, you know, just trying to grab as little as possible to get across. So I didn't know if anybody had any specifics, but that's kind of the process that we went through with little small adjustments. Let me give an example here. Like in 23, this didn't exist over here. Well, we needed those people to help balance this and this. Does that make sense? So we tried to keep the lines you've already determined, but with just a little tweak here and a little tweak there to get those numbers to balance. Because that's our first primary legal responsibility, is that balance, as Jim explained before, of population.
What's the deviation?
The deviation of what, each one?
No, just kind of maximum. What's the farthest outlier?
The farthest outlier, I believe, was 4.5. Let me look again. 4.6, 4.4.
That's great.
So we're far below where you start to run into problems. I couldn't get it much lower, and we tried. You know, it was just because once you start looking at big census blocks out in the rural areas, there may only be 2 houses on that rural area. You know, so then you start crossing township lines for no gain whatsoever. So that's kind of where we're at. And I thought if they're first, in order to get into discussion, there's a motion on this map to start with. Is the chairman, Mr. Hess, do you have any comment before?
I want to make the motion, we approve this map, but I was just wondering, in the redistricting committee meeting, you were able to, like the one where we were at it in 23, you put that back in and that could show them the numbers, how it changes real fast?
Let's get a second.
Well, let's get the second, and then we'll go back and forth. Yeah, that's a good point. Mr. Hunter with the second. So you're saying look at 23?
I believe it was 23, the area that we added.
Oh, this down here?
Correct.
Oh, you're talking about like click one. Okay, yeah, I think that was over actually in Mr. Raymond's area in Bourbonnais.
Okay.
Where you clicked on it and it had to be like an apartment complex.
Right.
Because it added like 100 people and it totally blew everything up. I don't know if I'm gonna get that lucky again, but I could try. Let's see here. There we go. Sorry about that. Wasn't ready to draw. Let's see.
Was Todd the chairman for that redistricting? Was Todd the chairman? Bones. Okay.
Where were we at here? I believe it was over here in this area, was it not, Bones?
Is that where all of that has it?
No, that's where the apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right over there.
Yeah, over by there. So if I just click that one box, no, that's a huge box. So let me see if I can find this, a smaller one here. Put me on the spot.
Sorry,
No, that's okay. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. I'm just trying to make sure I grab the right neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah, the cheap seats over here are just abusing me.
Right off of 102.
Let's see, that's a large census block. We got plenty of time. We keeping you out of court, Jim?
Yeah.
All right. Might have been this one over here. I apologize, everybody. We're trying to, yeah, it was this one here. Just that little. 0.47, 3.44, 2.81. So I got to back up so I don't save this map. Pause.
I think Mark that far too far.
Control S.
See how it jumps so much? I wished I could remember which block that was, Mr. Hess. It might have been up here. Nope. down here.
Somewhere up on 102.
Which little small blocks start taking you way out in certain areas. I wish I'd have been teed up for that one and remember exactly which block it was, but it was an apartment complex.
Right.
It put it up to like 12%, didn't it?
Yes.
Just that one little block.
One block.
So let me move this back. Okay. Sorry, that was horrible. But you kind of get the idea. So these are legal maps. They're balanced maps. They have as straight lines as we possibly can draw. So is there any other thoughts, questions, comments, Mr. Hunter?
Yeah. It's not rhetorical more so than anything. It's my understanding, and I was a member of this committee, it was a bipartisan committee structure with Chairman Hess, Vice Chairman Payton. Is that a factual statement? Is that a factual statement, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought you were speaking with those
Yeah,
folks.
additionally, was Mr. Rowe, State's Attorney, in attendance at those meetings?
I don't believe you were in attendance. We talked about the
No,
balance
he
of the
was,
districts.
he was here, yeah.
Oh, you were here in the back. Yeah, you weren't up here, but he was in the back, and he did say something. Yeah.
Additionally, can anybody remember how many meetings we had on that?
Before that, what?
5 or 6.
Okay.
5 or 6?
Okay.
To come up with the first map, and then we did the rebalanced one and met and went through the little
So
changes.
it was an ongoing process. Additionally, now refresh my memory, Mr. Wheeler. I only remember now one recommendation that was presented, and that was Mr. Ciascio.
Yes.
Okay, and what would, and how did he err in that recommendation?
Deviations were like 30%.
It was
Yeah.
like
30%. It wasn't just a little bit. It was unfixable, if that makes sense. It didn't adhere to really anything close to the requirements.
Thank
which that's not being critical. I mean, how would you know?
Facts don't lie, though,
yeah.
right?
You know. So.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Snipes.
Well, I appreciate the efforts that were placed into the maps. The only dissenting comment that I would have is that I would have liked it drawn where we would not have had any conflict between a couple of county board members running against each other. I think that is my only apprehensive remarks when it comes to looking at the map. Other than that, you know, kudos to those of you all that kind of sat here, because, you know, with Janet Peters and Tinker Park and have them run against each other, I'm thinking, you know, there's a way that we could have changed it, but again, 2 good county board members or whatever, I just hate to see that that had to be the case out of dealing with these 28 districts that we maintain.
Let's see. Is there any other comments? How about a roll call? He's not gonna look at me.
Did you say roll call?
Yes, sir, I did. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all for your work on that. The next item, I guess 372, could we get the title read?
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding an agreement to approve decommissioning plan and bond in the amount of $1,880,315 for Staley Solar Farm Facility.
All righty. First, while we do this, can I get a motion so we get into discussion, please?
So move.
Mr. Snipes, second. Ms. Hudson? Let's see here. Does anybody have any questions about this? It's the same basic decommissioning we're doing for all the solar farms, general terms agreements. Del, would you say there's any difference in this than anything else that we've done that's substantial?
Other than the larger scale, no.
You may want to define that since you mentioned larger scale, so.
This is normally we've been doing the 2 megawatt community solar gardens. This is actually the utility grade solar farm, which is about 400 acres and 70 megawatts of size. So it is a larger decommissioning plan and bond.
Okay. Any thoughts, questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All righty, the next item, because we get that title.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding ZBA case 21-05, rezoning from A1 Agriculture District to A2 Agriculture Estate District, and variance 121-286.C.1 driveway intervals in section 12 of Yellowhead Township.
No?
Okay.
I tell you what, let's get a motion to get it into discussion first, please. Mr. Swanson with a motion, Mr. Featherling with a second.
The property owners, which is the Lloyd Lorenzo Bowl and Regina Mary Bowl Trust, or Revocable Living Trust, would like to sell the 7.66 acres of their farm that is outlined in red to be used for a single-family residence and a pole barn. To do that, they need to rezone to agricultural estate, and because the property to the east has an existing driveway right on the property line, they would also need a variance for driveway spacing. Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning and Zoning Committee both recommend the approval of both the rezoning and the variance.
Any comments or thoughts from the board? Alrighty, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And 374, the title, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding ZBA case 21-06, text amendment to County Code Section 121-146, addition of roadside stands as a permitted use in the R1 Single Family Residential District.
Is there a motion? Mr. Eckloff, second.
Carrico.
Mr. Long, let's go with Mr. Carrico on this one. Del, do you have an explanation here?
Sure. We've had a few inquiries in our office from farmers that would like to have roadside stands to sell their produce, which is an allowable use in the A1 Agricultural District. However, it is not a permitted use in our residential district. If you look at the map, we've inherited since 1967, when our zoning map was first created, large areas of ground. The yellow is R1 single family residential. That's what it's zoned. That's not how it's used. So up until now, we've had to tell farmers that own property in those yellow areas that they could not have a roadside stand. That did not make sense to us. And so we put together a amendment to the ordinance that would allow it with some size limitations. It pretty much mirrors the ordinance for the A1 district. Both the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning and Zoning do recommend this amendment.
Yes, Ms. Parker. Oh, just a moment.
Let's get it done.
Oh, okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Well, that was easy. All right, so that's it for Dell. Under executive, we get the title read in the record, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding resolution to allow the County of Kankakee to enter into a lease with Riverside Medical Center.
Do we have a motion to approve on this? Mr. Fairfield, second with Mrs. Weber. Any comments, Jim? on this, or?
I mean, if anyone has any questions, but the gist of it is, we're going to allow them to have some space. They're paying fair market value for it. And in that space, they're gonna provide cognitive behavioral therapy, counseling, services to kids that come into the system at the time of entry. So you're getting individualized services to every kid immediately upon entry into the system. It's a really, it's just the right approach. And it's a long-term investment, but we're hopeful that it starts to show some early returns, you know, a year or two into this.
Mr. Hunter?
Just a question, Mr. Rowe. I think we discussed this in the past 24 hours with respect to incorporating some minority-oriented organizations, and one of which would be Dwayne Dean and Recone Family Services. Would that, would you guys be amenable, and could we push that particular initiative?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has services to offer, we're definitely on board with it. We need more services, not less. But for this purpose, though, this space would be dedicated to Riverside for the provision of those services by their counselor.
And there could be a possibility of Dwayne Dean and Recone interfacing with Riverside to do some kind of joint initiative or agreement in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. The county board, of course, would have to vote on any amendment to it, but it'd really be up to Riverside.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All righty, any other thoughts? We are not spending, we're receiving money, so I think we can do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to finance. The first item, just the title, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, regarding authorization to hire the accounting firm of Smith, Kelling, Dykstra, and Ohm, P.C. to conduct audit of fiscal year 2021, 2022, 2023, with options for fiscal years 2024 and 2025.
All righty. First to start with, I have a question for clarification. Steve? Steve, did they submit option year pricing? Because it matters on how this motion is made. I thought they did not, but I could be incorrect on that.
I believe it was referenced, but not specifically identified.
Because we could just vote for the 3 years if we can't clarify that now, and then pick up the option with a vote down the road if we need to.
24 and 25, it identifies fees would be determined at that time in their proposal.
Alrighty, so the motion that is made, if it is made, would not include those option years, just to clarify. Thank you. I guess we could start it off with that. Is there a motion to approve with that textual change?
Polk.
Ms. Polk, a second. Mrs. Parker. Do you want to speak to the process, Steve? Just briefly, and kind of let them know what we got and how you briefly evaluated those, or evaluated them?
Sure. Yeah, there was a lot of, I believe all the firms, qualified in and of themselves, a lot of professionalism background. So we went down into detail of communication with us, what they asked for, as far as information and their questions, and trying to find out the most about the county. And you know, with as probably in every area, there's always areas that need a little more attention than others during the course of an audit. And we try to evaluate, you know, if they asked or looked into items like that, you know, to be able to have enough information to, you know, to if their proposal was adequate, you know, to cover all the areas. So, and we also inadvertently had another way to test, is we had 3, if you would, mistakes in the RFQ. Although we didn't intend to have those, it inadvertently became a good way to test, and we found out who really researched our RFQ and graded it, if you will, and who found those mistakes and asked about those clarification on those. So it turns out that that's a pretty important part if they're auditing us to to look at the detail like that. So in going through all of the proposals and with all of that information in mind, in our mind, SKDO was clearly the most qualified to continue to do the work for the county in that regard.
I thought it was important to hear the process for the lowest responsible bidder, if you will, that he went through. Then we sent that information to Mr. Coughlin. Mr. Coughlin, I don't want to say didn't stamp his thought process, he stamped the process, that you have done your due diligence on vetting this correctly. Am I accurate in that? I got the head nod from Mr. Coughlin. So just wanted to let the committee know that's the process that we go through, that Steve went through in his team. So, Mr. Snipes.
I know I addressed this issue some time ago, and I have no objections as far as it's concerned, but I do welcome, or did welcome, the narrative, the brief narrative regarding the, not so much the lowest bid, but the lowest responsible bid. So I appreciate the due diligence in that regard, because in accounting, I am a particular to those that pay particular to the finest of details. So thank you for giving that brief narrative.
All righty. So we are spending money. If there's no more comments, questions, we could do a roll call vote.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy. Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Now, the next section, if you remember, we created this so we could do another consent agenda. So we didn't have to run through each one of these. We vetted all these at finance. They're out there, out there for the world to see. So if there's any that need to be considered separately, we'll pull those off and talk about those separate. So I'll give you a minute to look through the ARPA section, ARPA fund projects. And that ends before you get to lost revenue. So we're just doing that one section of ARPA. If you want to look through those and see if there's something to discuss separately. Yes, Mr. Eckhoff.
Number 386.
386. Okay. Any others to be considered separately? Yes, Mr. Snipes.
382 for clarification.
Sure. 382, 3 clerks. All right. Like a movie. Any others? All right, I guess if we could, do you think it's okay to do the abbreviated and then just drop in each one of these? Or do you have to read the whole
Authorizing, just read the authorizing expenditure for the first time and then everything else?
And then everything else, just list them in order. Yeah. I'm trying to save you.
We'll appreciate that. Authorizing expenditure for fiscal year 2021, fund number 095. American Rescue Plan Fund to Kankakee County State's Attorney's Office, digitization of files. America Rescue Plan Fund to Kankakee County State's Attorney's Office, laptops. America Rescue Plan Fund, Kankakee County State's Attorney's Office, dedicated ARPA legal counsel for administration. America Rescue Plan Fund to Kankakee County State's Attorney's Office, evidence management system. America Rescue Plan Fund to Kankakee County State's Attorney's Office, attorney and clerk dedicated to domestic violence backlog. America Rescue Plan Fund to Kankakee County Public Defender's Office, 1 public defender. America Rescue Plan Fund to Kankakee County Public Defender's Office, laptops. America Rescue Plan Fund to the Kankakee County Humane Foundation. America Rescue Plan Fund to Pledge for Life.
Alrighty. And that will be a roll call vote, please. Oh, do we have a motion? I thought we did. I apologize. Is there a motion and a second on that? Mr. Hunter? Go with Mr. Payton. He hasn't.
Motion to combine them all.
Motion to combine and approve all of these, just like the other consent. So it was Hunter and Payton. Okay? All right. Sorry about that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hutter.
Aye.
Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Sorry, just getting the next thing ready. Under 382, yes.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, authorizing expenditure from fiscal year 2021, Fund Number 095, America Rescue Plan Fund to the Kankakee County Circuit Clerk's Office, 3 clerks to address backlog.
Alrighty. Motion on this one first to start with. We'll go with Mrs. Weber, Mr. Fairfield with a second. Your question, Mr. Snipes.
Yeah, just wanted clarification on the narrative, whether, I know they have kind of been backlogging that office, and these funds are just going to support the 2 years, or will they be able to sustain this after the 2 years due to the shortfall that exists in their particular office?
The conversation that, and I guess everybody should know, and those who don't, I apologize. We had a meeting, Mr. Rowe and I, public defender, chief judge, and the circuit clerk to talk about backlog and these requests, and to make sure that we were all aligned on how to catch up in their own individual way, because not everybody has the same backlog, if you will, in their office. They all combine to create the big problem. Is that probably an accurate assessment? Yeah. So in this case, this was so the circuit clerk had asked about having clerks to be able to burn through some of the paperwork to keep everybody in the courtroom, because obviously they can't keep everybody in the courtroom if they don't have everything in order. So one of the alignment things that we had was those 3 people out of the ARPA funds for up to 2 years. That was what this is authorizing, but it's not out of the general fund for just that reason, is because after this, when the money's gone, the money's gone. And so there is no expectation that this lasts beyond the money. And that's clear to everybody out there. This is for, I don't want to say the project, but because each office is doing a little different approach, but they're all coordinated. So I hope that helps everybody. Mr. Hunter.
Mr. Chairman, have there not been ongoing discussions for months, if not years, regarding the functioning, the backlogs, as well as, I know backlog you may be speaking to in terms of COVID. I'm just concerned about the professionalism and the processing of issues and the work product in that particular office. And for the record, I'm going to say no in this regard, because I'm not sure that we're getting the highest and best use out of that particular office, based upon reports that are provided by the clerk, the verbal responses to issues that have been ongoing that even predate my appointment to this body.
Is there other thoughts on this, the board? Alrighty, then it will be roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
No.
Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. On to 386, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding authorizing expenditure from fiscal year 2021 Fund Number 095, America Rescue Plan Fund to Tracy's Pet Styling.
Is there a motion on this one to start with, to approve?
We already voted, yeah.
Motion to approve? Okay, for Mr. Hunter, a second? Is there a second? Mr. Fairfield. So, your question, Mr. Eckhoff.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for the $7,000, how did that number come up?
Shut him down.
Sorry, can't answer you. No, I'm just kidding. and I don't know if you can maybe switch because it's your mic that I'm getting feedback from. Or actually move your iPad away from the microphone. Here, let's try that again. Nope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the $7,000 and change, how did that number go ahead and come up? Was that off of lost revenue for that business, or?
Oh yes, they showed there was the loss between 2019 and 2020.
Okay.
They had requested like a lot more, even more than our cap.
Okay.
And so what I did is I took, because we're capped at 10,000 because it's a rural business, it's not in Grant Park. So it was just the difference between those two. So I stopped it at the 70, and that's hopefully makes sense to the board.
Thank you.
That was the actual loss they incurred per their tax filings. Yeah. Okay, we had a motion and a second. Are we done? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker. Sorry. Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander. Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Under Lost Revenue Fund projects, there is a slight amendment to Exhibit A. We had left off the copiers, and I apologize for that. I spoke with the state's attorney this morning. We can add it on there. We approved it in finance with the not to exceed number of 248, 568 and 51 cents. So that one is on there. So is there a motion to amend and add that? Mr. Hunter, second. Mr. Lear. All those in favor of adding that to the exhibit, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. A formality, I don't think we needed to, but it's good to have it on the record. Thank you. So we have the Public Defender's Office. I tell you what, let's get the title first, and then we'll.
For 388.
For 388, yeah.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, authorizing the expenditures of America Rescue Plan Act funds, fiscal year 2021, Fund Number 098, Exhibit A.
So you see Exhibit A now includes the copiers. Is there a motion on this? This is lost revenue, so it's not coming out of the ARPA money. Mr. Swanson, Mr. Long with a second, Any discussion points in there? Comments? Roll call vote then. Thank you.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton. Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. And just so the group knows that we've got things kind of streamlined a little bit better, if you will, as we work on our internal processes. So they're all coming into administration. We're getting them down with the documentation required, because sometimes they don't have it, the documentation required, i.e. tax forms, mostly. Getting those down into the finance department for them to say, okay, yes, this matches up, it fits within the board's policy. I look at policy also on the front end just to make sure I'm not wasting their time. Getting the documents in order for finance, so they send it back up with a routing slip that basically has yes, no, does it meet the requirements, is it, set to approve. Obviously, you always retain that right to approve or not approve. We want to make sure that everything is buttoned up before it gets to you. And then obviously we save the records. So we're getting better in that process as we do more of these. And I think we got something that is working. And thanks to everybody, including Kelly, who's part of that process, chasing people down for stuff. Moving on, openings.
One opening on the Clausen Park Drainage District, one opening on the BM Lewis Drainage District, one opening on the Zoning Board of Appeals, one opening on the X-Line Creek Drainage District, one opening on the Mantino Drainage District number 9, one opening on the Emergency Telephone System Board, one opening on the Kankakee Township Fire Protection District, 2 openings on the McGillivray Special Drainage District, 2 openings on the Mantino number 9 Drainage District, 6 openings on the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission.
Thank you, sir. The next item, if we can get the title read in, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, authorizing the County Board Chairman or his designee to sign the intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Aroma Park for policing with the Kankakee County Sheriff's Department.
Now, seeing that the sheriff has been here this whole time waiting patiently, is there somebody who wants to move this to the end of the agenda? No, I'm just kidding. Is there, do we have a motion on this to start with? Ms. Hudson and Ms. Polk with a second. Is there any questions? We've done these. I don't know if we've done one of these in a few years, though, for this board. Does anybody have any questions for the sheriff about the way these things are structured or anything else? It's intergovernmental, so I have to sign it, but it's really the deal that he works out with those municipalities. And I would venture to say we may be seeing more of these down the road as people start grappling with what the state's throwing at them, requirements, or maybe not. The probability is there, possibility. Because there's a lot of requirements coming from the states these days that these small departments probably can't quite catch up with, if you will, monetarily. Yes, sir. Mr. Seroy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and because the sheriff is in the room, and even if he wasn't, this was a contentious move by the Village of Aroma Park to lose their police department, and I know I have faith in the Kankakee County Sheriff's Department to cover that village to the best of their ability, and I support the Sheriff's Department's moves forward to this, but I just want to let the sheriff know that there's going to be a lot of people watching to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and it is my district that is involved in this, so I want to be on record saying that I also will be monitoring the complaints and the calls and the kudos to the Sheriff's Department with their next endeavor. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other thoughts, comments? Sheriff, sorry.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Mr. Seroy. I appreciate that. And as elected officials and you as elected officials and the other elected officials in here, we're used to having everybody watching over us. Normally sitting behind their computers criticizing us, but that's okay. I have the utmost faith, and it should be, you guys should know, this isn't something that we went after. This is something that we were approached by the Aroma Park administration. So it wasn't like we were out soliciting police services, but there is going to be some cost that Aroma Park will incur as part of this whole deal. But we cover, Aroma Park is not a full-time police agency as it is now. So when there are no police on duty, we are covering Aroma Park much like we're covering the rest of the county, that some municipalities who don't have policing, and the unincorporated areas as well. So we're looking forward to it. We have a great relationship with the people in Aroma Park, and I'm sure that we will gain your confidence and trust, Mr. Seroy.
He started a Facebook page.
From his sister's basement.
Oh, wow. I think I heard a shot. So we had a motion and a second on that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, if there's no more comments, we can go around with a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson. Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter. Ms. Bryan.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. If we get the title of the next one read in.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, authorizing the County Board Chairman to sign and execute the purchase and sale agreement and all other necessary documents for the sale of the property commonly known as Tract 1 and Tract 2, 332, 722, SF7, and 742 SF, located near Stewart Drive, Kankakee, Illinois.
Is there a motion on this one first? Start with? Motion, please, yeah.
Yes.
Ms. Weber, second. Ms. Bryan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is two small parcels of land next to where the Regional Office of Education is, right next to Shoup Manufacturing. Their Shoup is expanding, and they need to do some water work, if you will, on the drainage of that property, and it extends into the school's property. So in my discussions with them, we thought it was best that they would own these two small tracts so they could own the responsibility and do all the earthwork, and that's kind of what this is. It's just a couple of little pieces of land. We had to get a appraisal because, you know, originally it was like they're adding jobs, economic development. I wish it's two small parcels. I wish I could have just conveyed it to them, but we can't do that. We have to sell it for market value. So that is where the appraisal came in, you know, for $1,200. That's why we put that invoice in there. And the sale price is $16,800. And it's my intent that that would go back into the regional offices kitty, if you will, because it was their money that bought that property in the first place. So I think it would not be proper for us to put it in the general fund. We should put it back into their fund that they use to pay the electric bills and things like that, snow plowing and stuff like that. So it's a benefit to them, and it's not a huge benefit to us. So that being said, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other thoughts on that? Questions? Because they're ready to move. I'll just sign the paperwork when the state's attorney's office is done with that. There'll be a hold harmless so they can start working out there while that's going on. We're working on that. So we just want to make sure if somebody's on our property until the sale is final that we're not liable for anything. So we're trying to do things the right way. All right, Mr. Miller.
Motion to accept.
You need one?
I think we got him on this one. All right, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy. Mr. Lear. Mrs. Weber. Mr. Payton. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller. Mr. Long. Mr. Kirkstra. Mr. Hunter. Ms. Bryan. Ms. Hudson. Mr. Smith. Mr. Alexander. Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Is there anyone here that would have an issue if I made the, combine and approve? Okay. Most people, I think, heard the health insurance at the end when you first got here. Okay. Thank you for the mercy there, sir. So there's a motion to combine and approve 391 through 396. So Mr. Snipes, second. Ms. Hudson. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? And we can do a roll call then.
You want me to read the?
Oh, that might be a good idea, yeah.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, authorizing the county board chairman or his designee to sign an agreement with Delta Dental for dental insurance for county employees and officials qualified for dental insurance. Kankakee County continued funding of Perspectives Limited Employee Assistance Program as a carrier for the county of Kankakee. Authorizing the county board chairman or his designee to sign an agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois for vision coverage for Kankakee County employees and officials who qualify for medical insurance. Kankakee County awards Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois as the county's group term life insurance carrier, as well as the supplemental group term life insurance carrier for a 3-year contract. Health spending account, HSA contributions. Authorizing the county board chairman or his designee to sign an agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois for medical insurance for Kankakee County employees and officials who qualify for medical insurance.
All righty. If we're ready, roll call vote, please.
I'm ready. Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes. Mr. Seroy. Mr. Lear. Mrs. Weber. Mr. Payton. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Carrico. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller. Mr. Long. Mr. Kirkstra. Mr. Hunter. Ms. Bryan. Ms. Hudson. Mr. Smith. Mr. Alexander. Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Old business, other business. Mr. Snipes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Generally, I don't respond often when it deals with public comments, but I want to be clear that we don't chastise individuals or whatever, especially not grown adults. My purpose was there because we were invited there. And we were invited there only to convey, clarify, and communicate basically how to basically address the board and deal with issues that are germane to the board. If it's not germane to the board, you can do what you want to do with your 3 to 5 minute speak out. But for the most part, we're here to help, and we don't need the division as the people cited and things, and so therefore I don't want them to confuse help with, or at least clarification with a chastisement. If one felt that they were chastised, they would have to re-examine why they felt that. But in this particular case, invited out there to basically help, aid, and assist in any way we possibly could as far as how do you come to the county board. We work together. We want that camaraderie. But sometimes things are misplaced because it's not before the proper board. And so therefore, that was conveyed and clarified so that way you'll know when it comes to the county board what we deal with, what the township hopefully deal with, and what the municipalities or villages deal with. And those proper issues are among those. We have no jurisdiction beyond that. So just want a point of clarification for that particular purpose. Thank you.
Is there any other old business?
I have something.
Or other? Yes, Mr. Rowe.
Something for other. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As we talk about at many meetings, domestic violence is a huge problem in our county, really throughout the country, but especially in Kankakee County. For a community of our size, we have an inordinate number of domestic violence crimes coming through our system, and those are only the ones that get reported and are able to be charged. That's not even counting the many incidents that go unreported. So please keep that in mind. Look for opportunities throughout the year, but especially this month, to support survivors of domestic violence. A great way to do that is through Harbor House. They have a number of events coming up this month, so please check them out, and remember, they always have a food pantry that they desperately need help keeping full. So if you'd like to make a donation to the food pantry, you can bring it to any of the county board meetings. I'll be happy to pick them up, drop them at my office, or just give me a call. I can grab them from you as well. So thanks.
Yes, Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Jim, just one other thing. I received a text on October the 16th, 2021, between 11 and 4 p.m. The Greater Kankakee Black Chamber of Commerce will be at KCC to, I guess, show the African-American businesses or minority businesses that are in the areas. And so they have entertainment and I guess some food and stuff there, and ask that if you all are not doing anything on October 16th, 2021, between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. To come out to KCC, enjoy the festivities. Thanks.
Any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Uh-oh.
You've been usurped. Motion to adjourn. Usurper over here. Is there a second? Second with Miss Hudson. It's like Thelma and Louise over there. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, same sign.